Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today, as a part of the continuation of the thyroid gland, today we will discuss about the microstructure and the development of the thyroid and the developmental anomalies. To start with, we will start with the blood supply once again as a continuation. You all know thyroid gland is a butterfly shaped gland with two lateral lobes and an isthmus. The blood supply is by means of the superior thyroid artery, which is a direct branch of external carotid artery. It comes from above like this, and from here it divides into two branches, one anterior branch and one posterior branch, which goes on the other side of the gland along the posterior border. The anterior branch goes along the anterior border. The anterior branch ramifies over the anterior surface, and on the superior border of the isthmus, it anastomoses with the anterior division of the superior thyroid artery of the other side, like this. This is the posterior branch. The inferior thyroid artery, which is branch of the thyrocervical trunk, which itself is a branch of the subclavian artery, comes from below, takes a characteristic loop and goes along the posterior border like this. It also ramifies at the lower border and the posterior border and anastomoses with the posterior branch of the superior thyroid artery. There is another artery sometimes present, which is called the thyroid ima artery, which is from the left brachiocephalic trunk, which is going like this. So, this is the left brachiocephalic artery, and from here the thyroid ima artery rises up and supplies the isthmus. This is the arteria thyroidea ima, and these three arteries along with many branches from the underlying arteries which are supplying the esophagus and the trachea, they also give many branches to this gland. They all ramify outside and inside the thyroid gland to form many capillaries and many sinusoids. Coming to the venous drainage, veins are formed from the capillaries into three sets. Three main sets are there. Veins from the upper part, they ramify to form superior thyroid vein, which goes along the outer margin of the superior belly of omohyoid. This is the omohyoid muscle, and it joins the internal jugular vein. This is the internal jugular vein. The veins from the middle part and the lower part, they all form the middle thyroid vein, which passes along the lower border of this omohyoid muscle and join the internal jugular vein. And many branches from the lower part, they form inferior thyroid vein. The inferior thyroid veins of both sides join the brachiocephalic vein of the left side. This is the left brachiocephalic vein, this is vein. and this is the left subclavian artery. So, here comes from the lower pole. Sometimes fourth vein may start as Coker's vein. I already told you, Coker's vein. It will drain into the left brachiocephalic vein. So, this is the blood supply. All these arteries form sinusoids around the thyroid follicles. Now, coming to the microscopic structure, you all know the thyroid gland has two capsules, one false capsule formed by the deep cervical fascia, that is the pretracheal fascia, and the true capsule formed by the condensation of the stroma of the gland. The capsule sends so many septa into the gland, thus forming many lobules. So, many lobules are formed, and this is the gland, and each lobule, these septa will carry the branches of the arteries and veins, and also the sympathetic nerves. Each lobule, if we see each lobule will have 40 to 60 follicles. So, each lobule will have 40 to 60 follicles. They are called thyroid follicles of different sizes, and all are stained pink in a normal stains. So, everything you will see as a pink structure, and these follicles will present the epithelium which is lying on a basement membrane. This is the basement membrane, like this. Like this. So, all the cells are having a circular nucleus in the center. I am drawing it with blue, but they will stain pink, and this follicle is filled with colloid. So, colloid material is present within the follicles. The colloid is nothing but the thyroglobulin, which is inactive thyroid hormone mixed with iodine. So, all follicles are filled with colloid molecule, that is the thyroglobulin plus iodine. The size of the epithelium, if you see, differs based on the activity of the follicular cells. These follicular cells, if they are inactive, will present flat cells. If the cells are inactive, they will present flat cells with rounded nucleus. And the entire thing, this entire the lumen is filled with the colloid material. This is the inactive follicle. A moderately active follicle presents a different scenario. The cells are cuboidal to low columnar. Like this, with the central nuclei again. And moderate quantity of colloid. The very active follicle is almost the lumen is empty, and these cells are columnar, which secrete they become columnar like this. And nuclei are round and very scanty colloid is present in the lumen. If we see the here and there, the follicles presents another type of cell between either between cells or between their basement membrane and the cells. These cells are called parafollicular cells. These are the parafollicular cells with rounded nucleus. Here and there they are present here. Sometimes they are present between the follicles as groups also, like this. So, these are the parafollicular cells. Now, this entire follicle is lying within the basement membrane. You have to remember that. The blood vessels which are forming very fine fenestrated capillaries and sinusoids are present around the follicles like this. So, the secretions when active are released from this base to the sinusoids like this. So, this is about the microstructure of the thyroid gland. If this thyroglobulin is recognized as an antibody, if it acts an antigen, Hashimoto disease occurs. The nodules or the follicles will not function, and this condition is called Hashimoto's disease. The parafollicular cells, they control the calcium metabolism. They are antagonists to the parathyroid hormone. Now, we will discuss about the development of the thyroid gland. You all know from the mandibular arches, the ventral ends form two lingual swellings, and the endodermal floor forms tuberculum impar. Then we have an hypobronchial eminence here, and dorsal to this tuberculum impar, a small elevation is formed, which gradually evaginates through the substance of the tongue, forming a thyroglossal duct like this. When it reaches the level of the trachea, it divides into two lobes like this. These lobes are near the caudal bronchial complex, caudal pharyngeal complex, that is forming the thymic rudiment, the thyroid rudiment, and the ultimobranchial body. So, this joins the thyroid rudiment and forms the lateral lobes, and this starting point remains as the foramen caecum on the tongue. Later, gradually this thyroglossal duct disappears, leaving a small part occasionally as the pyramidal lobe, which is present on the isthmus. Sometimes a part of the duct may persist as thyroglossal cyst. So, a thyroglossal cyst may be present here or near the thyroid gland, which is attached to the hyoid bone, and it moves during deglutition. Sometimes what happens during formation of thyroid gland, the thyroid gland may develop somewhere else, that is ectopic thyroid gland, that the thyroid tissue is present somewhere else. Sometimes the growth which is controlled by the thyroidic rudiment, the further movement, if it fails, the thyroid may enter into the thorax. Sometimes the thyroglossal duct may not develop and the thyroid gland develops at the junction of anterior 2/3 and the posterior 1/3 of the tongue, forming the lingual thyroid. These are the congenital defects of the formation of thyroid gland. If the swelling in the thyroid gland is called goiter, it may be due to over function of the triiodothyronine or low function of the thyroid gland. That is, if it is functioning more, it is called hyperthyroidism, and if it functioning less, it is called hypothyroidism. So, hypothyroidism causes obesity and puffiness of the face, and the hyperthyroidism causes exophthalmosis and goiter. So, these are the defects present with the thyroid gland. Here with this we complete the topic of the thyroid gland, and we will meet again with another topic. Thank you. Please like, and you can ask any queries in the comment section. Thank you very much.